Okay, so first things first, before I actually get into the recording, one, I have a sore throat, and two, there's construction going on outside. So if either of those come through in the recording, I can't do anything about that. You're just gonna have to deal with that. Also, second thing, we have new sprites now. These are the sprites that I've been wanting to have for months. Now, Ramcoon wasn't originally the character that I wanted to be the main face of the channel. It was originally this character, Wolfram. By the way, yes, no, they are two different characters, not one person. But for months, I've been trying to get these sprites right, and I didn't fucking like any of them, but here they are now. So, these are the new sprites that I'll be using for videos. Ramcoon will still be around every now and then. Ramcoon still will be showing up, like, Ramcoon's not dead or anything. If I have to do, like, an ad read or, like, a small, like, bit, Ramcoon will come back for those small segments, but for the most part, these will be the new main sprites. But as of right now, I'm still grabbing footage for a few future videos, so we're here in the database of the SCP Foundation once again. As always, for these SCP Read-up videos, I allow the people of my server to vote on who they want to see. And they definitely knew who they wanted. SCP-1471 is a character that can best be described as... Oh dear, oh god, please put the pen down for one fucking second. This is just a known fact. I mean, give the internet any design and they'll... Let's just say there's a reason why Rule 34 exists. It's just inevitable and that's just what the internet does. However, that's a topic meant for another time, and for now, let's just get into the basics of what 1471 is. 1471 is a seemingly peaceful entity given the Euclid classification because of the difficulty of keeping something contained that can just kind of blast itself back into the place that you just took it down from. The idea of installing a seemingly innocent app only to now have some figure following you everywhere you go for the rest of your life, if you don't either get rid of it or become aware to what's happening quick enough. App stores in any form, whether it's on your phone, computer, on console, are absolutely massive, and things like this could easily fit in amongst the ocean of other apps trying to convince you that they are the app that you should get. And adding on to that with the concept that any of these apps could simply just grant you a permanent stalker, one which, yeah, won't hurt you, but would still be kind of scary and awkward to just have around you every moment of the day. Especially when first being introduced to the effects, and to just randomly start getting sent photos of places you've been to eventually photos of you in real time. Stalkers are absolutely no joke when it comes to being one of the scariest things out there. Doubly so if you can't tell what their intentions are. And for a lot of people, this is the case with 1471. Their intentions are unclear and they can't seem to communicate well. However, for one that we'll be reading about now, it seems that Malo just becomes a part of your life from that point on. Item number SCP-1471, Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. All mobile devices that have SCP-1471 installed are to be confiscated and analyzed for any potential leads to other possibly affected devices. Afterwards, affected devices are to have their batteries removed, be assigned a designation, e.g. SCP-1471- insert number here, and be placed in Storage Unit 91 at Research Site 45. All online application stores for mobile devices are to be monitored to prevent any inadvertent sales of SCP-1471. Suspected devices are to be targeted using self-uploading malware in order to disable the device until it can be seized by field agents. Description: SCP-1471 is a free 9.8 MB application for mobile devices named Malo version 1.0.0 in online application stores. SCP-1471 has no listed developer and is somehow able to bypass the application approval process to go directly into distribution. SCP-1471 is also able to avoid removal by other program manager applications. After SCP-1471 is installed, no icons or shortcuts are created for the application. SCP-1471 will then begin to send the individual images through text messaging every 3 to 6 hours. All images will contain SCP-1471-A either within the background or foreground. SCP-1471-A appears to be a large humanoid figure with a canid-like skull and black hair. During the first 24 hours following the installation of SCP-1471, the mobile device will receive images taken at locations commonly frequented by the individual. After 48 hours, the mobile device will receive images taken at locations that were recently visited by the individual. After 42 hours, the mobile device will receive images of the individual in real time, with SCP-1471-A appearing within close proximity to the subject. Individuals with over 90 hours of exposure to these continuous images will begin to briefly visualize SCP-1471-A within the peripheral vision, reflective surfaces, or a combination of the two. Continued exposure to SCP-1471 after this point will cause irreversible and sustained visualizations of SCP-1471-A. Individuals at this stage have reported periodic attempts made by SCP-1471-A to visually communicate with them, but fail to understand or comprehend these actions. Currently, the only known treatment to reverse SCP-1471's effect is to eliminate the individual's visual exposure to these images prior to 90 hours after installation. To date, no apparent hostile activity has been reported regarding SCP-1471-A. Level 2 access required. Access granted. Archival document 1471-01. No SCP-1471 as posted in application stores. Malo version 1.0.0. Free, reviews 0. Description 4. Never settle for those awkward feelings of being alone ever again. Malo is an exciting and interactable experience that will keep you engaged and intrigued. The anxiety of social situations can be nerve-wracking, but after just a few hours of Malo, you will soon forget about all those painful emotions of disappointment. Be part of the new craze that is quickly becoming the next social substitute. Remember, the more you participate, the more Malo will engage you. Your experience is completely up to you. Absolutely no ads. Enjoy! I was scared when I first saw him. It happened just as you told me. The messages, the pictures, seeing him around every corner afterwards. I was so young, who wouldn't have lost it? William sighed. By then, he was over the creature following him. It wasn't like it was going to go away, no matter how much he begged, pleaded, or attempted to bribe. He knew that the best and only solution was to just get used to Capone being there. At least, he had the solace of knowing that he wasn't going insane. Believe me, William, I know many people who have reacted the same way. Fear is a more common reaction to the unknown than you'd think. Dr. Lauren Brains consoled him. These cases weren't exactly common, but they were commonly known. It's not even that I'm afraid of him anymore. I mean, he makes me jump when I see him in the morning. I don't think I'll ever get used to that. It's just the bad connotations he has, William rebutted. I know that he does, but it happened 2 years ago. I know it's hard for you, especially with your shadow, but you need to carry on, Dr. Brains stated. William just sighed as she continued. Our session is almost up. We made some real progress, William. I want you to do something for me when you get home. Do you have any homework or anything? I did it all on my break. Good. When you get home, I want you to think back to your first experience, and write as much as you feel comfortable sharing. Is that alright? Yeah. Thanks for seeing me. It wasn't too long a drive from the doctor's office to home, 5, possibly 10 minutes if there was a train. He always saw the creature through the rearview mirror when he drove, riding in the back seat. It looked innocent all on its own. Alien way. Waving to William as he saw it. Despite everything, William found himself talking to it, like one would talk to a dog or cat about their day when they're alone. It seemed to listen when he talked, and after a while, he could swear that it understood. It's hard to tell with a face like that, so all there were to go by were the various head tilts and waves, and even then he had to teach it how to wave. At least I know you're interested. Drop the backpack near the door, go to the patio, wave to Capone from the mirror, fridge, drink, chair, crash. William's afternoon routine was more clockwork than it should be. He thought back to his session with Dr. Brains. She wanted me to try and recapture the experience when I first saw him, huh? William mumbled as he grabbed a few sheets of paper and a pen. Bit by bit, he pieced together the sequence of events that led up to this point. I've had Capone with me ever since I was 15 years old. I remember that my 20-year-old sister, Sarah, brought up an app that she downloaded earlier at the dinner table one night. She had no idea how it does it, but hazarded a guess that it tracks you through your phone's GPS and sends you pictures of places you've been with a really cute monster placed in the photos to make it look like it's following you. It didn't seem that weird. I recall that Google Maps could get a decent ground photo at the time, so just add Photoshop to that and you'd have a gimmick. Plus, we knew it couldn't be a virus. The App Store checks every apps for things like that before peddling it. The only thing that I found legitimately off about it at the time was that it was both free and adless. Her explanation of it sounded pretty cool to me, so I asked Sarah to help me download it on my phone. She told me that while my old hand-me-down flip phone did have something like an app store, it most likely didn't have Malo. Didn't stop her from looking though. Sarah was a good sister. She really could have told me to just get out of her hair, but she always took time out of her day for me. Packing my lunch, playing with me, bringing me to R-rated movies that I was clearly too young for. I was lucky to have her as a legal guardian when our parents went away. I was too young to process it all when it happened, but Mum and Dad died from a head-on collision with a drunk driver. Sarah took care of me as my legal guardian up until I moved out for college. God knows where I'd be if she didn't. After some prodding, she found the app, which was a surprise to both of us. It was obvious that my phone didn't have any kind of GPS, but neither of us even thought about it until much, much later. Soon enough, I received my first picture. I'll never understand the way that Sarah saw the world if that was her idea of cute. The photo was taken in my school's courtyard, with the creature I'd soon call Capone sitting on one of the benches. You could barely see him, but he was there, covered in his black matted fur and his knife-like claws, a set of blank, pure white eyes and that face, which was merely a skull belonging to some kind of large beast, looking directly at us with that large, wolfish grin. I gave my phone back to Sarah, telling her how terrifying it was and that I didn't want the messages anymore. She just jokingly punched my shoulder, saying, "Oh, don't be such a baby. It's too cute. Look how happy he is to meet you." I looked back at his face, his wide grin specifically. I have to admit, I laughed at that. It was just the sheer wrongness of that statement that made me listen to the next. "I'm sure he'll grow on you eventually. Tell you what, if you can put up with him for one whole week, we can go to the movie you wanted to see. If he still gives you nightmares, we'll delete it. If you end up liking it, we'll laugh about it later. Deal?" I looked at the picture again. It appeared that getting a photo every now and then was the extent that this was going to go to. And looking at it in hindsight, I probably would have kept it on for next to nothing if she really wanted me to. So I agreed. Sarah was ecstatic after that and assured me that I wouldn't regret it while showing me some of her own pictures. She only had 3 so far. One at her office, one at the park, and another on the road that we lived on. Each picture containing her own clearly visible entity. I must have looked nervous or something because she suggested that I should name mine like she did with her Cassandra. I thought about it for a bit. Let me make something clear though, because it seems to come up whenever I tell people this. I did not name my Malo Copone because of the incident with my parents. I didn't even know that Mom and Dad's arrest involved alcohol at the time. I named him after a history lesson I found amusing in school where people's fear got the best of them. And as my teacher put it, it ended up doing more harm than good. It was intended as a reminder that I shouldn't be making the same mistake. I saw a bit of light in this whole thing after giving it a mock title and thought that it wasn't going to be that bad. I went to bed and my normal life went on for just a little while longer. I continued to get pictures of Capone for a while, following me at school, the bus stop, my street, virtually everywhere I went. It wasn't until the 3rd or 4th day when I got called in from class. I was thinking that I was in trouble for something, even if I didn't know what. But as soon as I saw Sarah, that feeling was stifled. She looked very shaken. The instant she saw me, she immediately yanked my arm and brought me to the car. Sarah was not looking good at all. She kept asking questions about Capone, things like if I saw him or if I received any photos from him with me in the images. I haven't checked anything from today, but when I checked, there were 2. I remembered exactly when those messages were taken, because during them I made a mental note that I'd got some tags from Capone. They'd been sent as soon as they'd been taken. Sarah knew that we were being pursued by something. She probably had no idea what they were, and I knew she had no idea of how they were doing it. And she knew that they knew where we lived. She couldn't figure out how to delete it. She said she tried everything but couldn't find a way to get it off. She couldn't even find where the app went. I'm not even sure what we were planning to do, but before we could even fully plan a course of action, I got another text. Sarah froze and looked at me as if to say, "Don't look at that." If I didn't, I could have a semi-normal life right now. It would have been all over the news within a week and we would have known. But I did it. I opened the phone and there we were, just sitting there with that fear-stricken look on our face. The photo was clearly taken from the hood of the moving car, giving us a clear view of what was behind us. He took up most of the back seat and towered over me. We both turned around, preparing to scream at the monstrosity behind us. But when we did, the seat was empty. We didn't know what was happening or what to make of it, but we felt that the only thing to do was run away, abandoning the car. We hastily ditched the car, ran the rest of the way to the apartment, and locked the doors behind us. We locked ourselves in the bathroom and waited. We just stayed there. Even when we got a message from Cassandra or Capone, Sarah would scream at them, asking why they were following us and begged for us to be left alone. We felt helpless against them. All we felt we could do was sit in the bathroom and hope they would go away. The room felt like our only safe haven until we were exposed for them for too long. Sarah started to panic, saying that she kept seeing one of them behind her. I wasn't seeing it though. I was more concerned about trying to calm her down by telling her that maybe they weren't really there than I was about seeing Capone in the mirror. I convinced Sarah that we needed to leave the room out of necessity. We couldn't stay in the apartment forever, and if they wanted to get us, they would have done so already. We called the police, and here we are. We both got help, but I was the lucky one. Everyone's case is different in terms of interactions, but for me, Capone was always in a mirror or some reflective thing large enough to show him. He was predictable, and I could find ways to block him out when I needed it. I learned how to expect Capone, and after a while, he kind of grew on me. I used to make a makeshift curtain that I would pull over the mirrors when I didn't want to see him, but I started using that curtain less and less as time went on. Capone always seemed to try and interact with me, even if I didn't understand what he was trying to say most of the time. I started to greet Capone with a casual wave as I passed him by the living room mirror, and eventually he started to wave back. He kind of became a constant companion to me, and I adjusted to Capone just as he adjusted to me. My case wasn't as severe as Sarah's. She saw Cassandra everywhere she looked, around every corner just out of sight, over her while she slept. Sarah took her own life 2 years ago. I wanted to blame the Malos for it, but I can't. Following the person who looks at their messages is just what they do. Now, every time I see Capone, I'm reminded of what I did in that car that day. I knew I shouldn't have picked up that text. If I didn't, she would still be here. It was almost 4 hours since William started writing, but he almost felt relieved. He had never actually told anyone about this in such detail before. The majority of what happened was kept between himself and Capone. He looked up to the creature in the mirror from across the room for a few seconds, as it gave the odd, familiar wave. William was silent for a minute, staring at Capone, and then back to his papers. He felt like he needed to make one last point. But then again, how would I have known? I don't know who made the Malos or why. I didn't even know if anyone actually made the app. Many things like it have been created naturally, or have been given some kind of anomaly out of sheer chance. It would make so much sense if some physical thing was to blame. But there's none that I can legitimately find. None on the Malos, none on me, just on chance. William's story is both a sad one and a seemingly nice one. On the one side, we hear of William's sister, Sarah, and how unfortunately the effects of Malo led to her taking her own life. After being presented with the app, and by extension her variation of 1471-A, Cassandra, she just couldn't take it. As the story states, the effects of the Malo are different for everyone, and while some, like William, may be able to change and adapt to their new situation, for some it'll just become unbearable. However, on the other side, we learn of how William's grown from his new adaptation to his life. He has a constant companion, one which he can still block out if he needs to. He's seeing a doctor and is getting help for what he's gone through. And at the end of the day, in a database like the SCP Foundation, a story like that is hard to find. While SCP-1471 can be memed on as the funny furry SCP, I don't fucking know, it's still a really well-written one. One which, while the entity itself may not be malicious, can still cause very harmful effects on the person affected by it, just because that's how people are. The Malos are a really cool concept, and it delves really well into how the human psyche works and a lot of the psychological effects that can happen and how it's different for each person. And it's no wonder why 1471 is a fan favorite of the database. But that will be all from me this week. As always, make sure not to miss out on any future polls or events by going and checking the Discord. Recently, I've been pushing out a lot more of events, a lot of them taking place over on things like Roblox because it's just easy, everyone can access that. As of right now, we're going to be doing events every single Sunday, maybe a couple of additional ones, and as well as this, I've started streaming more often. You can catch me over on my Twitch at twitch.tv/1amwolfram. We currently have a sub goal going on over there. If we manage to get 50 subs overall, then I'll buy a lava lamp and you guys get to pick the color. I know it's something simple, but I like lava lamps, I wanted one, and I wanted to get you guys involved. Same with the events, I really like going to the events. I get to get more involved with you guys, and I get to see you guys, which is a really nice thing. I love seeing you guys. But make sure to join the Discord so you don't miss those, because that's normally where I do the announcements for them. On average, our events usually happen at around 8:30 GMT. which you can fucking translate that into your own time zone. However, depending on demand, I might do ones later, I might do ones earlier. You just have to stick around to find out. As well as this, you can find me over on Twitter. I post there fairly often, and of course, if you wish to support the channel, you can head over to either the Patreon or the Ko-Fi. The benefits of both are exactly the same, and of course you'll be helping me out by allowing me to continue making better content for you guys. But that's all I have to say. I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
So that's why I always feel an overbearing presence just out of my field of vision, watching and judging my every move.